session on establishing framework for entrepreneurs in AEC sector, Miss Deepshikha Kumar, who is often counted amongst the most networked entrepreneurs of India. Deepshikha is at the helm of making a global mark with her startup Speakin, Asia's largest network of business experts and thought leaders. One of the most respected women entrepreneurs in the region, Deepshikha is the winner of 2020 Top 100 Women Entrepreneurs by the Ministry of MSME Government of India and 2019 and 17 Asia Women Icon Award Singapore, which celebrates excellence in entrepreneurship. With a core philosophy to create a large yet highly curated network, Deepshikha works non-stop with speakers and industry experts globally to inspire, motivate, and channelize people. In this year itself, speaking platforms saw thought leaders like Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, Dr. Bimal Jalan, Nandan Nilekani, and many more. So I welcome you, ma'am, for this program.
Thank you, Devendraji, for your time and inviting me here to talk to such a wonderful array of students that you have. And is it okay if we make it interactive, or how do you want to do this?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So, like it was being communicated by your team that we will make it like a, question answer session, which will be moderated by Dr. DP Singh. So, if you want to take some time to introduce yourself and with some initial words, and then we'll move forward to the questions.
Sure, that'll be great. I think a lot of, uh, I mean, it was great to hear what Nandini was also talking about in terms of architecture, putting things together. I think it's such a phenomenal profession in terms of, and as entrepreneurs, we are always told that you're the CEO, you are the accountant, and you are the janitor. You're all in one. No entrepreneur, irrespective of what the level of the organization is a single skill or a single functional individual. And I'm proud to say, as an outsider, that I can speak the same for architects. The the balance of creativity, rationality, the balance of the profit and loss in terms of the architecture that you're putting together and the feasibility of what you're doing, and of course bringing in everything that the customer is requiring, whether it is the person who's mandating the activity or the person who's actually going to use it. It's I think it's a beautiful profession in its own sense. And personally, I've had the honor of interacting with a lot of entrepreneurs from all over the world who have been in the architecture, who have been architects and are now supporting their own endeavors. So I think only three things that, as Nandini was also mentioning, which have or can provide a parallel to what I see here is: number one is resilience. And the times change, the circumstances change. It is the resilience that creates a difference between a successful entrepreneur and the one that calls it quits very quickly. Number two is the ability to assimilate. Like in architecture, you need to assimilate a lot of components to make a single experience count. Similarly, as an entrepreneur, you have to continuously assimilate, whether it's your team, whether it is your finances, whether it is your other stakeholders, your clients, your product, your market, and more. All of that needs to be continuously assimilated. And number three, and which I'll say in the current context, is the borderlessness of what we are doing right now. It has, the past 1.5 years, I hope all health restores as soon as possible, but it has truly created a borderless economy and borderless world. It is imperative now that you learn from what has happened globally, both in terms of experiences as well as tangible activities, to bring into what you will be doing, whether you're doing it here in the region or uh, in the world elsewhere. And finally, and which is something that I have always emphasized, is the importance of networking, is the importance of moving away from your silos, and your zones of comfort to bring in different experiences. I mean, we've had, I know being architects, you must have always, all of you would have at some point of time touched the Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead, right? I mean, the Howard Rocks, the ultimate architect, as they call it in the new, even in the current era as well. So it's the combination of a lot of what you experience in many different places that can assimilate into your current experience, whether you are creating a structure or whether you're creating a business. That'll only happen when you're open, one, to connect with, two, to communicate with, and three, to learn from people who are outside of your comfort zone as well. So those are the four things that I have done in my career, which I've thought could be parallels to what you are doing here, and could help in further pushing the success quotient forwards.
Thank you for your opening words, ma'am. Now I would request uh, Dr. Devendra Pratap Singh, Dean APD Noida, to please moderate the session.
Thank you, Prerna. Thank you so much. And I would like to first welcome because Prerna, you have given me chance to come to Mukherjee campus. First of all, I would Mukherjee on this platform of MET University. It's indeed a
Thank you.
great pleasure that you have started with such a enterprising area and very useful to architects about networking. And it's useful, but rarely actually we are able to do it. Reason being that we are more inclined towards our making of design drawings, and now we have started realizing that these drawings, designs have no meaning if there are no takers, and if there are no collaborations actually to make them more give them that touch of that what is required, or what are the aspirations of the people in the industry. So it's a new era where communication technology is helping us to connect and come up with new areas. Deepshika ji, my first question would be, it's not a question actually. We would like to know from you that your startup Speakin is a new venture comparative to so many ventures we said earlier. So can you just help us understand that how this idea came to your mind and how you have brought it to such a success in very short span?
I think so. Thank you, Devendraji. Thank you for that. We are a network of experts. We are today Asia's largest network of top thought leaders who come together and then are empaneled or walk into organizations, different organizations, and help them in learning from different experiences. So this is called expert or experiential learning that Speaking is providing. How it started was in two ways. The first and the foremost reason why we put this together was, traditionally what we've seen, and it also happens very often in strong industries or stronger professions like doctors, architects, for example. Nandini was a great example where there is a clear lineage, right? I mean, your father is a doctor, and therefore the son or the daughter automatically is expected to follow the path in most of the cases. And that is in large parts also a function of the expertise and a function of you being exposed and so close to learnings from a legend already. So at Speaking, what we wanted to do was we wanted to move away from the entire concept of, as they say in India, Raja ka beta Raja. It is not imperative that a king's son is the king. I mean, anybody has the potential to has a chance or an opportunity to become a king, as long as he or she has the right skills or the merit and the zeal and the will to do it. So we wanted to democratize education. You as experts today, like you have Brinda ma'am and Nandini combination. So there is a very strong expertise sharing that has happened over a period of time, and therefore it aids to a person's an already capable person's learning. Why should any of us be devoid of that learning? The intent of Speaking was just that. to democratize learning, to take you to people and have you be able to learn from the best. You want to learn from the best doctor, you can go ahead. Today, you want to learn from the topmost architect based out of New York, please go ahead, do it. Speaking will help you do that. We'll find the person and we'll get the learning in for you. So that was the entire intent of putting it together, Divinity. And the way we've been able to build it, scale it very quickly, and um I think it's a huge parallel to some of the architecture or some of the structures that we see as far as India is concerned. I think a big gap which we have, and again, I'm talking to you as a user, as a consumer, is the lack of, number one, consumer interface, the ergonomics that we call it, the user interface. A lot of products are created, particularly in this country, and I speak as an Indian, by virtue of the buyer, by virtue of the person who's putting the money in, not by virtue of the person who's actually going to use it. Please understand, there is a difference between the buyer and the user. As long as you identify that, you will be successful. There'll automatically be a pull on the product. So we always concentrated on the user, who's going to actually use the product, and therefore design the product accordingly. So I think that was the big difference that helped us in scaling very, very fast.
Okay. When I've gone through your profile and I've seen your lots of learnings from, I believe, from Wharton School. Uh, what am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible, Prerna?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
You're audible.
Prerna,
Yes, sir. You're audible. Can you hear me?
and Prerna, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Uh, okay. So as I was going through your profile, I've seen your learnings from Wharton also. How do you see that this global education in today's time is very important, and global learnings are important to develop this network and serve to diverse communities across the globe, especially in AEC sector or the service sector like architecture.
See, architecture is a very touchy and feely kind of a product, and you have to experience it to be able to create patterns.
Prerna, can
Sorry, sir. You were saying something?
Prerna, is this a lag at my end?
Yes, sir. It's a lag at your end. We are able to hear that in a flow.
Okay, so I will just stop my video so that we
Yes, sir.
can.
Yes, sir. All right.
Great. So I think,
Okay, am I
yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
so? Uh, I come back again to my question. I've gone through your profile and seen your learnings from Wharton, and other international connections. So, how do you think that it's important for at least people like us from the architectural community to have international education when we have to serve the diverse community across the globe?
See, in terms of education, I think I still believe that, of course, crossing borders as far as education is concerned is something which is a personal and a big decision. But having said that, I think it is about the entire process of, or the purpose of educating or studying abroad or any other university or any other different environment from the one that you've originally been born into, is to gain a larger experience. Uh, that can happen in many shapes and forms. I mean, today the world is very, very open in terms of whether it is requiring to, whether it is to gain experience as an employee, whether it is to gain experience as an intern, whether it is to do short-term engagements and more. All those options are available. See, the second thing that is happening is traditional education, whether it is India or elsewhere, is becoming slightly dated. While in large parts for you, the basics will not change, the fundamentals of the balance and the elevation and other things may not change, but understand the consumer is changing very, very, very rapidly. The expectations, particularly of Indian consumers, are changing extremely rapidly. And you'll be surprised to know that it is not just a function of what is available in India. I mean, and what is the function and what is available from an architecture perspective. It is rather a function of what a consumer is experiencing in other sectors that is defining their expectations, and you need to bring in those perspectives and understand the users, the consumers of your products, of your structures in that sense. So I'll give you an example. You become used to using Google. Google is a very, very simple interface. One text box, enter what you want, click, you get what you want. That's how easy life has become. And people today, people who are traveling through places, people who are walking through subways, people who are opening doors, people who are taking a flight across a staircase, people want it easy. There are small little changes in our life in other sectors which are defining what people expect from everything else in their life, in the product usage that they have. So that, therefore, I think it becomes extremely critical for you to understand and develop from the end user perspective. If you can get that straight, if you can get that maturity aligned to your thought process, you can do it from anywhere. Understand what an Indian consumer is becoming extremely mature. He or she is exposed to what a tier 3 or a rural customer today in India, a rural user today in India is exposed to what a user in Delhi is used to. And a user in Delhi is exposed to today what a user in San Francisco is exposed to. So you will have to balance all of that, assimilate all that thought process, and then build what you are building. So that is where I think global education helps in building a larger perspective and building high quality product which is of relevance to a larger set of people.
Okay, as you have mentioned about democratizing the entrepreneurship aspect, my next query or inquisitiveness would be
So we are not able to hear you.
I think there's a network issue, but it'll be
Yes.
great, Prerna, to also talk to some of your students here. So if anybody wants to ask questions, I mean, I would love to understand how many of you are actually looking at entrepreneurship as a career. Are you looking for entrepreneurship as a career for yourself right after this?
So I think what ma'am is willing to do is that if any one of you wants to really open up your mic and ask a question directly, we are more than happy to answer your question. But before that, I also have a question which I would like to put forth that when we talk of building a enterprise, what in your opinion are the critical checklists that or are there any checklists that one must follow to ensure that the idea, whatever in any sector, whatever we're picking it up, it gets a kickstart at least? So are there any checklists that you can specify?
So excellent question, Prerna. I think number one need when you are beginning on an idea, number one is the feasibility. And how do you do that? You need to do a quick dipstick in terms of whether they are customers. Again, I'll go back. Whether there are users, buyers of that particular idea, product, service that you're looking to launch. That would be your number one activity, and you could do it with 5, you could do it with 10, you could do it with 50, depending on the resources that you have. Number 2 is a team. You would need a team to build your product, to scale it, and to take it. There is something called lifestyle business, right? I mean, most of the businesses end up being a lifestyle business, which is typically in anywhere between 20 25 crores a year. And till such time you can do it by yourself, you could perhaps do it with a set of employees, but a team which includes a founder, co-founder, that will really help if you're looking to build a mega business. Number 3, and perhaps most critical, would be the resilience factor, like the one I started with. Entrepreneurship is an extremely stressful and extremely vague journey. If you don't have the resilience, you will be hit harder and harder and harder as you grow and become big on a daily basis, at times, multiple times during the day. So, do you have the resilience to keep going despite a multitude of failures that you would get in your life? There will be pockets of successes, but failures are far, far many than the number of successes that you get. So, that is, I think, those are the 3 things that I would say that you need to think about, have, and then think about before you move into an entrepreneurial experience.
Yeah, so very rightly said that a lot of time we do have the skills, but we certainly at time lack the will to pursue an enterprise probably. You talked about team building, so I also have a query about, when we talk of team building and at the initiation of a business, when obviously we are not having that pay scale for team building, and the type of people that we're pulling in any business also plays a very important role. So do you have any tips how to build a quality team also, and how to balance out your business also at the very initial level?
Um, I think initially it is just about having the right, maybe a couple of people around you, you being with a co founder and more. But at the same time, I think the initial successes would lie with clients. That is where your success and your initial focus should be, because you want to establish the feasibility of your idea. You want to establish that the idea actually is good enough and will make a much deeper impact as you grow forward. If you don't believe that the idea is feasible enough, you know that would be your step 1.
I can see a question being posted by one of the participants who wants to know that can you suggest 4 points to become a successful entrepreneur?
So, as I said, Shiva, earlier as well, step 1, understand yourself. Are you resilient? You can't be a person who's a quitter, who's, because there'll be so many chances to quit. The world will focus you. Your bank finances will force you to quit. Your At times, the ecosystem will force you to quit. Are you resilient enough? Can you battle things out and win over? Number 2 is, are you a people's person? You need, contrary to the belief, an entrepreneur's journey is not a journey of a solo flight. It's a journey where you need a lot of people to move forwards, and therefore being good with people is a massive, massive, massive support skill that you would need. Number 3 is about, as I said, about networking. So you need to be cultivating a network of support and network of information around you, which includes your mentors, guides, and more. And lastly, a bit of a contradiction to the resilience one. Number 1, know when to change, know when to quit, have the agility. For example, when COVID hit, we were doing all our entire workflow was offline. The everything that we used to do was in person, so our experts would go in person and impart sessions to clients world over. The moment COVID hit, we were shut. I mean, our investors wrote us off within 7 to 10 days, saying that this is not, this will not survive, this will not come up. And within 3 days, we launched a new website. We changed everything to a virtual experience, and we resurrected. Today, Last year has been the best year for speaking, financially, economically, brand wise, and more. So, are you agile? Have the agility to change, pivot at any point of time? So, those are the four things that I would say, Shiva, that you would need as an entrepreneur.
I think that's really commendable, ma'am. Like you just mentioned that in 3 days you came up with a backup plan. My next question was actually aligned to this thought only that when there are times that we come across a lot of challenges before and also during such situation that may happen in our life. As an entrepreneur, do you think we should always keep a backup plan somewhere in our mind so that we are resilient to different kind of situations that we may face?
Uh, I think it is also a function of your character, and something that either you I think partly it is something that is your DNA that you're born with, and second is also at times a function of your childhood. Have you been conditioned? And I do believe, I think kids today are far more pampered, and then perhaps we were at some point of time. And so I was an only child of my I am an only child of my parents. And but throughout my life I had seen my mother work. My mother was the only working woman in our family. And so from day one, and she got a lot of flack for being a working woman. I mean, she would come home, cook, and do everything that a wife, mother, or a daughter-in-law would do, and still go to work and contribute financially as well. So I think that conditioned me from day zero, that life is a mishmash of a lot of effort. And if you want to do something that you want, you have to do a lot more than what an average interface would need. So that helped me a lot, and making being a doer is what helped and made me the resilient worker that I am today.
Okay. My next question is about networking skills, and especially for a person, who's a fresh graduate from any institute and aspires to become an entrepreneur. Like in architecture, we see that students aspire to, start up their own firms and start doing projects at their own. So, do you think social media now that we see is a good tool for networking and marketing yourself? Do you think it's a good tool?
Okay, there are two parts to this. Number one is networking is not just about knowing people. It's also relationship building. It is going deeper into an experience and a person, and building a relationship, building an empathic two-part relationship, two-way conversation. Second part of networking is a more on the surface kind of an experience where you know a lot of people. You know where to find them when needed. When you know when what experts to find when you need. That could be a second and a more broader based one. Number three, in terms of social media and more, see, it's a very fancy way of putting it. Social media is not networking. Number one, it can help you with access, but it will not help you with conversions, because you need to have aged relationships with people to be able to lead them to a valuable culmination. And the second bit is, I think people or today believe that branding on social media, for example, is very critical for my success, very critical for my amplification. It is not true. Your work will speak for yourself. I mean, and as we move forwards and forwards, it is becoming even more evident that you don't want to be empty suits. You want to be very, very strong in your ability to be able to garner the support that you need. And first be good at what you do, then amplify it. A lot of times we end up amplifying it and then being good at what we are focusing on. Focus, be great at what you're doing. You will automatically start becoming popular, whether offline or in a digital world.
Ma'am, next I wanted to know about that marketing also definitely plays a very important role in any business. So, what were the ways probably that you followed as your marketing techniques to pitch in your business and that turned out to be the most successful for you?
That's precisely what we did, Prerna. We became so good at what we've done that, in fact, till last year, or in fact, till December, 90% of our business was a function of word of mouth leads. And we only started marketing in the month of March this year. We've never marketed before. We became so good at what we did that we didn't really need any marketing. Word of mouth was the strongest marketing that we could get. And I believe that it is also very, very true in architecture, in the world of architecture as well, and of architects as well. Because, if you're good at what you see, you're building high stakes stuff, right? I mean, these things are built once. If you get it wrong, if there is a wall which has been put up wrong and all, and with a pillar, if you will, for all practical purposes, it'll stay there for the rest of the building's life. So you can't go wrong if you've done well. I think that is what you should focus on. Do your work so well, be so good at what you're doing. And also, one more thing that I would strongly recommend is, again, going back to the point, be a doer. Concentrate on the results and the outputs. A huge part, and global, it's a global issue, that any structural project, any infrastructural project is prone to delays, is prone to over budgeting, is prone to extended completion timelines. If How can you improve that? How can you bring processes? How can you learn? Are you aware of technologies the world over which can make things easier? So I was reading somewhere that, I think Xerox, or who it was, but it started, they brought in some technology which can measure immediately, how much soil. So they said that, to dig a foundation is the biggest project. That, when you're digging a big plot, then the amount of mud, because you have to calculate, right? I mean, the amount of mud that will come out, the amount of earth that you will bring out, that amount of time it will take to dig, the estimation of that was the biggest issue, and it took the maximum amount of time. So there was some organization which came up with, that the functionality that they could precisely measure the amount of the depth, the length, and the amount of mud that will come out when the plot was being dug. And that reduced the time taken to complete the project by about 1/20th. So one example of what I know. I mean, you would know so many of them, and you are expected to know so many of them. Are you aware? Are you aware of global trends? Are you aware of global technologies that can make your client's life easier? If you're able to consult, if you're able to bring your expertise there, if you're able to be so good at what you do, people will eat out of your hands. You won't need marketing, any more marketing than that.
I can see one more question being posted here. So basically, the participant is trying to ask that we, as an architect, we are governed by a regulatory body, which is called as Council of Architects, who have also collaborated with us for this
Right.
program. So they're asking that in those such professions that are governed by such regulatory bodies. Uh, they do not really have specified any details with respect to any kind of a startup ecosystem, although we call ourselves as professionals and service providers, but there is no such ecosystem which is provided to us. So what is your opinion on this?
See, I think COA will be able to better answer that question than me, in terms of what are their memorandums inclusive or exclusive of. And I would encourage you to reach out to them directly. You would have the representative. I can see someone here as well, but you would have the representative. I would encourage you to pick up the phone, talk to them, or write to them. Having said that, the startup policy, as far as India is concerned, even otherwise at a larger level, is also very, very nebulous. We got registered by a DIPP just a few months back. And I can go on record saying that it is extremely vague. We have no clue what it stands for, what is the advantage that we're getting out of it, whether financially or otherwise. So but yeah, I mean, that's what perhaps you have to live with. And but I think we also perhaps need to do a little more homework and digging deeper. But we are not the easiest country to do business in. So you will have to walk in, find the policies, sieve the system, find the related notifications, and then get it. So as I said, it'll help you to be the doer. Uh, I would not put a lot of hopes on the ecosystem to help you with the journey forward.
Okay, so to be within the time, like we have been talking so much about punctuality, I'll put for the last question that I have, that what piece of advice would you give to all these aspiring entrepreneurs that we have in the panel and beyond that also?
First of all, if you are looking at entrepreneurship as a career, my first and foremost recommendation would be, see, you are a very highly skilled profession. You're not a generic profession. And therefore, my recommendation would be that your entrepreneurship journey would also be a function of your strength as an architect. Once you become a strong architect, once you become famous about, or are known by the quality of work that you do, everything else can follow. So that you may want to learn in an organized setup, that you may want to experience it with an established organization, have an experience professionally, and then jump in with your journey. Second thing, early on only, I would encourage you to bring in a ops person. Ops means operations. So don't waste your time as an entrepreneur, and I say that to all doctors, all uh, pr- professionals, who are individually skilled to scale, to try doing business by yourself. Business is very complicated, whether it is finance, legal, taxation, hiring, your rent, your systems, and more. You don't want to do any of that. So early on, when you are, going about your entrepreneurial journey, I would highly recommend that you hire a good ops person or a COO for yourself, who will be able to manage the business side of things for you. So while you're good at what you do, don't waste your time in some of the other logistical parts of being an entrepreneur. So those would be two early recommendations that I have for you. And number three is, keep at it. Keep getting better at what you're doing, and success will definitely come. There are advantages, massive advantages of being an entrepreneur, and but they happen over a period of time. They're not quick successes.
Definitely. So if we have any more question from the participants, we are already, the time is already up, although for us, but there's still a few minutes that we have. If any of the participants have any of the queries.
So Prerna, I'm just going to take this last question from Shiba, and then we can say our goodbyes. Shiba, I recommend you to read a book. I don't know. I have it here. I'll just show it to you here. I'll give you the name of that book. Just give me a second. Please go ahead and buy that. I can sense multiple parts to your question, and therefore I would recommend this one. So I don't know if you've read this book. I don't know if you can see this. This book is called "Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office." It says still because it's a revised version. Pick up this book and buy this for yourself and read it. Uh, I think there are some deeper questions that you are asking with a single question. Read this; it'll answer uh, your questions. But as I said, I will repeat it: be excellent at what you do. If you're good at what you do, there's nothing that can stop you. But you have to be determined enough. And yeah, all the best.
So that brings us to the end. Thank you so much, ma'am, for
Thank you.
joining us, for giving us your time, and hope we can have a little more chat with you sometime later also.
Look,
We would like to really welcome you to speak with our students also and encourage them to become entrepreneurs in their life ahead.
thank you very
So
much.
thank you
Thank you.
again for joining us.